All right, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Doug Sandler from Turnkey Productions, and that guy over there from South Florida, fresh back from his visit to the land of sin. Welcome back from Las Vegas, Mr. John Browning. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, good to be back. Good to be. It was fun for a season, and good to be back.
I,
So
I can handle about 2 nights in Las Vegas before I start going a little bit stir crazy. Any more than 3 nights, and I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? I
yeah,
don't gamble. I love the shows and I love the food that they have there, but I don't gamble. But I like the city because it does have it's so alive all the time.
yeah, and it does have everything. They're even adding. I think the next thing is an NBA stadium,
Oh wow, really?
or yeah, I think they're adding an NBA team, and I think they already have the NHL, and they got the Raiders.
Yep.
So I mean, they literally they have sports, they have music. We go for the music, the shows, and yeah, we don't gamble at all at all. I've never really understood the whole gambling thing. So
Well, it's a little like the stock market, except it's a little more risky, I think, or maybe not. It depends on what you're investing in. Speaking of which, we have a really good topic today because it's one that is coming closer for me and near and dear to all of our hearts that are thinking about retirement is, the big shift in the game. There is a game changer. It's called retirement. And like, where do you draw your income from differently when you're in retirement as opposed to when you were working a 9 to 5 or, even self-employed and, 1099 or whatever you're getting your income from. So we're going to talk about the shifting state of your income. Is that fair? Did I set that up right for you?
yeah, that's essentially it, because the game really does change from, you've probably heard the phrase, what got you here won't get you there. And
Or you can't get
that
there from here.
yeah, or you can't get there from here. Yeah. I've heard that one too. But it really does change when you enter retirement, and really just before you enter retirement, you really should be changing your own game, because the game is going to change for
All right,
you.
so let's talk about that. Let's do the pre-retirement planning side of things when you're thinking about, hey, retirement's coming just down the road, and then versus when you're in it and you're now pulling some of that money down in the form of income. So how far off do we need to start thinking about it? Is there too far off? Is it right? What's the just in time and what's the giving yourself enough breathing room to make it happen properly?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question too, because that's obviously different for everybody. It depends on how much risk you're willing to take, what makes you not be able to sleep at night. But in general, if you're 5 years out from retirement and you're investing in, growth, equity market, and you're highly overweighted towards that, that's still fine. And as you get into year maybe 4 and 3 and 2, and certainly at 1, you want to really reconsider how much risk and how volatile you want your portfolio to be. And you want to start making some of those adjustments gradually, not all at once, to generate the type of income that you're going to need in retirement.
So I know one of the things that we're going to talk about on a future podcast episode, maybe even today, is later on, so that you guys will have this in the upcoming episodes. Is something about Roth and when it's important to take taking down money that was in an IRA or a pension plan or all that stuff. But for the sake of this, we have this one variable, and it's the variable of, well, I don't know how much I'm going to need because I don't know how long I'm going to live.
Right.
So how do you
Yeah.
take that into an account when you start to do this planning with your clients? Because do you shoot for a specific number of years that you're going to be alive, or do you shoot for a how much income you need, and here's when we have to schedule you to die because you won't have any money after that.
Yeah, I've had clients that said, "Well, I'm planning on dying at this age." I'm like, "Okay, all right," but the thing is, we don't know, and the second thing is, we are living longer.
Yeah, totally.
So a lot of people on this call, you may not think it. As I talk to people, the older they are when I talk to them, the longer they or the shorter they think they're going to live.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, my dad always talks about, I mean, he's been talking about for like 15 years now. He's like, well, I don't buy green bananas anymore because he's convinced he's going to die, and
He's the guy that feels like he's got a leg up on somebody in the mortgage business when he takes a 30-year mortgage, right?
yeah,
He's
that's
like,
right.
come
Yeah,
on,
exactly.
those guys, why would they give me a 30-year? But it happens.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's take a fairly traditional example. Somebody's a handful of years out from retirement. They need to start thinking about it. What stuff do they need to start thinking about as it relates to where they're going to derive their income from when it gets to when the game changes? And let's keep that theme going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to answer your last question, what I tell people like that are, say, our age, right? I mean, you should probably plan on living to 100
Wow.
because a lot of us will, you know, I, especially if you keep moving, if you keep taking care of your body and all that, it's very possible there are more and more people living to 100. And if you plan for that, then it won't be a surprise and you won't be maybe running out of money as long as you planned for it, right?
Right,
So
right.
that's what I tell people. Always look at me like, I'm not going to live to 100. Like, well, let me tell you the statistics on the number of people now that are living past 100,
and
and they're
and and
shocking.
it's always interesting because it's the people that love what they do. The option is it's not that you don't want to work anymore. It's that you want to have the option of whether you have to work or not. To be 85 years old, no offense to anybody in our audience that's 85 years old and still working a 9 to 5, but I'd love you to have the option of whether you're going to work at 85 rather than the necessity to work there because you don't have enough income coming in the door.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what we find, to get to that, your next question there, where do you take it from? And it really does take some planning, because I know people and I work with people literally every day that come to me and say, I've got all this money and I've saved and I've done a great job saving. Here's the problem: they haven't done a great job planning. And so now when they take their distributions, those distributions are taxable in a way that is going to significantly reduce the amount of time that they're going to be able to draw income from it. Now, a lot of times we can fix that issue with the right kind of planning, but setting up the right accounts at the right time, and positioning yourself to not pay too much in taxes can make arguably as much difference as doing really, really well with your wealth management, and your analysis of the market and purchasing the right securities and investments. Just setting yourself up in the right way at the right time with the right different accounts. And there's more than just traditional 401k and IRA and Roths. There's more to it than that. It gets
Okay.
fairly complicated.
All right. Well, can you maybe just let's take a 35,000 foot approach, since we don't have the ability to go too deep in the 30 minutes that we've allotted for each particular episode. But I want to share with somebody. You mentioned two things right there. You mentioned the traditional IRA and 401k. What other vehicles are there that people need to be thinking about where that distribution of income is going to be coming from in retirement?
Sure. And I'm disagreed with by some very popular folks out there, but one of the most powerful tools, especially if you are in a high income level, one of the most powerful tools you can use, and for various reasons, but is a life insurance policy, cash value life insurance policy, universal life, whole life, depends on what you're looking for,
Hmm.
and annuities. Because while it doesn't seem sexy, right? The idea of a guaranteed, and it's the
Guaranteed.
only time I can say that is when I'm talking about the insurance, is guaranteed income in retirement. That may not seem sexy now. Let me tell you, when you're in retirement, knowing that you've got a paycheck coming every single month and a certain amount that you can count on, can make all the difference in the world. And then you attach a long-term care policy to it.
Okay, well, I want to take a little dive just I want to put my toe in the pool of this for just a quick second because you mentioned two. You mentioned an annuity and you mentioned whole life. I'm assuming you mean whole life insurance. Is that what you had said,
There's whole life and then there's universal life as
universal?
well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's just talk about the life for just a moment. Are you talking about because we need an income, so we need a regular distribution of money coming on a monthly basis or every other month or however it's set up. How do you do that with either a whole or a universal life policy? Do you borrow the money or are you actually taking part of the cash value? It looks like you're saying yes to that.
Yes, you are borrowing the money. And because you are borrowing the money, number one, you're borrowing it from yourself because there's
Right,
a cash value.
right.
And number two, and this is the great value of it, is since you're borrowing it, it's not taxed. And you really don't
Mm.
have to pay that back until you die.
And then it comes out of the payment of the
Death benefit.
right out of the death benefit. Okay.
Yeah.
And the older that you get, the older your kids are or your beneficiaries potentially are, and the less they may even need that money too.
The
So
less they might need, exactly.
right.
And whatever is left, they get tax free.
Yeah, that's a good double whammy in a good way. Okay, so that's and we can't go into any more detail with that right now, but we'll tell you how to talk to John about how that might be a positive thing for you to do also. Would these be policies that would have need to have been set up already, or are these policies that you're going to just start buying at I can imagine the premium on a life insurance policy that you pay at 55 or 60 years old might be a lot higher than if you bought it when you were 25.
Yeah, the earlier you can, but a lot of people, in their early years, they can only afford term
Right, right.
insurance or whatever, and that, you need that to protect your family and all that. But this idea of buying term and investing the difference, which I know Dave Ramsey thinks is great, but his math and my math, and I'm pretty sure my math is right, don't match up on that.
Got it.
I think and I'm just going to say it out there for everybody. I think he's dead wrong.
Okay.
He's
All
just
right. All
dead
right.
wrong on the
Well,
whole
there's different
insurance thing.
policies, and we apply to
Yeah,
the John Browning school of
that's right.
investment
Here on this
advice. Not the
podcast,
Dave. You're not listening to Dave Ramsey right now. You're listening to John Browning. So if you want to listen to Dave, go ahead and switch the dial. Okay.
switch the dial.
All
That's
right.
right. Yeah, and
Talk.
I love Dave. I think he's done a lot of good for a lot of people. I just think he's
Agreed.
really hurting people when he says that life insurance, whole and universal life, is like an evil thing. It's
I
just not.
totally get it. I understand, as far as well, we don't have to get into the Dave Ramsey philosophy.
No,
I'm with you 100%. Okay, then you mentioned the other potential vehicle, and you mentioned an annuity. And again, part of the beauty of an annuity, it's a guaranteed income. Well, depending on the type that you get, there's a guarantee of the income that you're going to get, but there's also a pretty hefty upfront cost for annuities sometimes.
there can be. I mean, typically now these days, right? I mean, it used to be that annuities there was an big upfront cost. Not so much anymore. What's the big cost behind an annuity is that you've got to be dedicated to this thing for a while. So they don't really charge you an upfront fee. They charge you an ongoing fee to manage the assets and for the insurance of that guarantee.
Right.
But it's invested. That money is invested and it's growing for you. And when you need it, it's there. And then generally speaking, they're going to guarantee that income for a certain number of years once you quote annuitize, you start taking the income from it.
And how far
And
in advance would you advise someone to, again, the longer you're in an annuity, the better. I remember it somewhere around 22. I'm like, hey, this American Express annuity, this seems like a really cool thing. And I started, and somewhere around 26, I'm like, what the hell am I doing this for right now? Had I only kept that annuity, to this point, it would be, well worth the money that I put into it. But I instead went with a whole life approach. And back in
which
19, I think 92 or 3 or 4 or something like that, and bought a second one in 96. And just where you're saying, I'm like, I got a lot of cash value in that life policy right now.
yeah, that's right. And with an annuity, buy them early, buy them late. I mean, there's not that much of a difference, except when you maybe there's a slight difference, but not much when you add a long-term care policy to it, which is another really important thing that people
Right, right,
and think
right.
it's never going to happen to me, and it does, right? That's actually probably the statistics are it is going to happen to you at some point. And that can just destroy your retirement plan right there if you haven't planned for it.
All right, you mentioned two really good things. You mentioned an annuity, and you mentioned also the life insurance vehicles for receiving some income as you change the game and you get into retirement.
Yep.
What other vehicles am I in? I could be in an IRA, I could be in a Roth, I could be in a pension, 401k. There's a bunch of other things. How do I know which ones of those? Some of them are already taxed, and some of them haven't been taxed yet. How do I know the right variable on each one of those to take out?
Yeah, and there's no one right answer. It really depends on your situation. I always say that. And then of course this is not investment advice, right? This is just opinion and information for you. But one of the most important tools that's often overlooked too is just having a regular old taxable brokerage or some sort of account that you can use to adjust your income each year. And we don't have time to get into
Yeah,
how to do that, but
yeah.
using your taxable account that you've saved up, everyone should have one, in my opinion.
You're just
You
talking
should
about like
have it.
a high yield savings account that maybe I haven't touched for years, but it's already been taxed. It's money going into that account, even if it's just a 1% Wells Fargo account, just something that's got savings, right?
Yes, something like that, but also an investment account. And an
Hmm.
investment account that's, invested for growth or invested for income, whichever one, whichever
Already taxed.
balance, but
Already
it's
taxed.
already been taxed. So you're
Got it.
only being taxed on the income and the capital gains. And that allows you the flexibility, and flexibility is what it's all about in retirement, of switching your cash flow to not 100% taxed. Only the income is being taxed that you're taking out. And by doing that, you may have an opportunity, and we can get into this in a later episode, to reduce your income in a given year and reduce your tax rate and use that year to convert all or part of your regular IRA into a Roth IRA, which then all the growth from then on in that
Right.
account is tax free, because those tax deferred accounts are kind of compounding your tax rate, right?
Right.
Because all the growth is going to be taxed on top of the fact that you're also pulling out things that haven't been taxed yet. So you really have to, it requires a complex analysis. And
Got
we
it.
have some software, we call it the tax lab, that we can plug, we
Put
plug in
your
all the
goggles on.
numbers to.
I just saw you with your
Yeah,
goggles and your Bunsen burner. I
that's
just saw
right.
that. Your
We
white lab
we
jacket.
we put on our lab coats and all that, and we plug those numbers in, and we can see exactly at what level your next tax bracket is, and then we can have the conversation mathematically, not how I feel,
Right.
but what's the mathematical equation that actually gets you to the lowest possible tax bracket in each year. So which part of that
Oh,
regular IRA do you want to roll into your Roth?
okay. Okay.
And but if you can only do that if you've created the flexibility early on of being able to reduce income, taxable income, in any given year.
What's interesting about what you just said, and I really haven't thought about it from that position before, is let's say that the number that you need, for just the sake of having a number, let's just say you need $5,000 a month to live on, and that's, taking care of all your expenses, everything. Where you pull that $5,000 from is more important than the amount, which is $5,000,
That's
because
right.
you could be pulling that out but paying $2,000 back in taxes because you pulled too much money from a tax deferred or non-taxable account, or an account that you haven't paid taxes on yet.
That's exactly right. You've got it down. That is 100% accurate, because we all remember the first time we got our job and we looked at our paycheck and we were
Jeez.
like, wait, I thought I got paid, in my case it was $3 an hour.
310 for me.
Yeah. Yeah,
310.
three bucks an hour. And I was like, wait, I thought I was supposed to get $125 or whatever it was for me. And I was like, but who is this guy called FICA? And why is he taking my money? And it's all those taxes come out and you're shocked. Well, in retirement, you're still responsible for paying those taxes. So those are
Wow.
still going to come out of many different kinds of accounts, but not all of those savings
All
accounts.
right. So what you're saying is, and again, I'm just going to beat myself up over the head with this, and my audience in the meantime as well. We're going to do the same thing with them. In order to determine your tax liability, you really need to know where the money is coming from. It could be coming from, in some cases, from an IRA, in some cases from a 401k, in some cases from life insurance, in other cases from an annuity. It could be coming from a myriad of places. And you need to have that all worked out in advance of retirement. It's not that you can't do it after you start to pull money, but the best time to do it is in the planning of that. All right, what do we need to do to plan for this? Is it what do I come to the table with when I'm meeting you the first time? What do I need to have?
You need to have all your statements. You need to know what your adjusted gross income was last year, at least last year, and what you expect it to be if anything's major going to change that year. But you have all your statements, and what we do is we go through and we talk about what the best strategy is to create the best flexibility when you get to retirement age, and probably just that year before retirement age. It's all about creating flexibility for yourself.
Okay. Can I just have somebody just leave me a lot of money and I don't have to worry about it?
Well, there you go. And if they leave you a lot of money in a life insurance policy, it's tax free.
Yeah, there you go. Even better, even better. Oh my gosh. Okay, what questions am I not asking you that I would want our audience to know the answers to? I know we just covered a lot of stuff there, and we're going to tell people in our audience how to get in touch with John so you can get some of the solutions started right now. But am I missing anything, or what do I need to know?
I think I have this idea for a video. It's about everybody standing around the water cooler and they're talking about their investing and what they've done. And the one guy is talking about his investing and how successful he's been, because you only hear the guy who's talking about when he was
Right, right.
successful. So, well, how'd you figure out how to do that? Well, I watched a YouTube video. Oh, that's amazing. That's great. I'm going to watch some YouTube videos too. And then you show the same group of friends in an airplane getting ready to jump out of the plane, said, this is going to be great. All right. Who packed these parachutes? Oh, I did. How'd you know how to do that? Oh, I watched a YouTube video on it. You going to jump out of that plane?
No.
Retirement is a little bit that way. Do you really want to try and watch YouTube videos like this and just try to figure it out, or do you want to go with
if
a little bit more experience?
If you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you know the best thing to do right after listening to this episode, if you haven't done it already, is get in touch with John and his team, because they're the ones that are going to set you down the right path. So how do people do that? What's the best way? Text, phone call, smoke signal? What's best for you, John?
All of the above. I don't know about the smoke signal. We may miss that, but text the word life. It's just real easy. Grab your phone, 321-421-5213, and type in the word life. Send that. You're going to get a link back. It's going to have all sorts of free information for you to take a look at. And there's also a link to my calendar, directly to my personal calendar. It doesn't go to a member of my team. And I'm happy to chat with you. And nothing gets sold on the first call. I don't sell you a thing. We're just talking. And you can decide whether you like me and vice versa, and whether we might be a good fit to work together. Or guardianrockwealth.com. And there's a contact us section. We're very, very easy there. Get in touch with us.
And when in doubt, I know John goes to Las Vegas at least once a year to see Shania Twain. So if you want to see a Shania Twain concert with John and his wife, you are welcome to go ahead and do that. He'll take you on the call.
There you go.
Hey, John, thanks for sharing your expertise. Thanks for being here again, and say hello to Southern Florida for us.
All right, will do.